Some tough words this morning. We're laughing, but we're at this interesting moment where a lot of people think Donald Trump has crossed the line. If you look at the polling data, not so sure. He's actually doing quite well. Let's look at the Des Moines Register this morning. Donald Trump is running as an anti-establishment candidate, so I'm not sure if this helps or hurts. But the Des Moines Register editorial, he has become the distraction with traction. That's pretty clever. A feckless blowhard who can generate headlines, name recognition, and polling numbers not by provoking thought, but by provoking outrage. In just 5 weeks, he has polluted the political waters to such an extent that serious candidates who actually have the credentials to serve as president can't get their message across to voters. That's the Des Moines Register reacting over the weekend to where Donald Trump several times said John McCain was not a war hero, and then when prodded, repeatedly said perhaps he's a war hero. Before I get your insights, one of those candidates who thinks he should be getting more attention is Lindsey Graham, who just happens to be a very close friend of John McCain. Here's what he told Aaron Burnett, his view of Donald Trump.
What he said about John, I think, was offensive. He's becoming a jackass at a time when we need to have a serious debate about the future of the party and the country. And this is the beginning of the end of Donald Trump.
Beginning of the end, he told Kate there, filling in for Aaron Burnett last night. Is it the beginning of the end? Is Des Moines Register editorial matter in Iowa, or does that in some ways maybe help?
Well, this is what we still need to see. You know, there is this poll that shows Donald Trump on top now, but that poll was all taken before the comments about McCain. And the report on the poll said that in the last day of the polling, after the comments, Trump did start to drop. So I think there's a lot of sort of establishment Republicans looking very nervously for the next wave of polling to come out. This could go one of two ways. It could be that that portion of the party that is attracted to Trump's outsider status and bluster is not going to be put off by this. But I think what we're going to see is that, you know, insulting the military, insulting religion, insulting Christianity is going to cross the line for at least some people, and we'll see him start to drop.
Yeah, I dug into the comment section of the Des Moines Register editorial, and a lot of folks there were saying, A, it's not the Des Moines Register's business to be talking about who should run for president, let the voters decide, and a lot of folks just rallying behind Trump, saying that he was a truth teller, saying that he is scaring away the Democrats because he'd be such a tough challenger to whoever comes out on the Democratic side. So, you know, I think it sort of fuels this idea of this anti-establishment person. I never thought Trump would necessarily do well in Iowa to begin with because there's so many conservatives and homeschoolers, but he certainly may have damaged his chances with some of the comments he made about his own faith and talking about crackers in terms of communion, but we'll see.
He is second in Iowa, according to a poll, and you're right to say so, that was taken before the weekend. The Monmouth University poll put him in second in Iowa behind Scott Walker. The poll you mentioned is the ABC New National poll, which shows Donald Trump on top with 24%. That's a big number, especially when you look at a 15, 16, 17 candidate Republican field. That means 3/4 of the voters aren't for you, but in a crowded race, that's a big number nationally. But to Molly's point, what ABC News says is this analysis is that he was at 28% in the first couple of days of the poll. In the last day of sampling, he fell into single digits. The question is that sample size, is that telling you something was changing or not? We have to wait to see that. Donald Trump, though, may think that something might be changing. Because listen to him on Bill O'Reilly last night. For several days he was asked, do you want to apologize? Will you apologize? He said no. He doubled down. He tripled down. He quadrupled down on John McCain. But here he seems to back off a little.
I have respect for Senator McCain. I used to like him a lot. I supported him. I raised a lot of money for his campaign against President Obama. And certainly if there was a misunderstanding, I would totally take that back. But hopefully I said it correctly, and certainly shortly thereafter I said it correctly.
You know, for Donald Trump, that's I'm sorry.
Yes,
that's as close as you get. But that he got there after refusing and saying, you know, the media was taking him out of context and blah, 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 blah. Is that a sign that he, you know, if there was a misunderstanding, I would take it back?
Well, look, Trump is trying to create the impression among his followers that he's sort of gotten a bad rap from this whole thing. We've heard him attack the media a lot, say he was taken out of context, say you've got to play the full tape, which is actually even worse when you hear the whole thing. But so I think if he can convince people that this is all unjust and that he's getting piled on by the establishment and us Beltway insiders, you, me, us, and that the reason they're attacking him is because he's a truth teller, he's an outsider, he's dangerous, that he's a threat to us. that helps him. So the more he can divert attention from the substance of what he said and put it on the people who are attacking him, that is something that could actually build him up.
To your point earlier about the people commenting in the Des Moines Register, if you're going to comment about these things, and if you're looking at Mr. Trump as a possibility as your guy, and that's your comment that he's the strongest against the Democrats, you're not reading the polls. Maybe you don't trust the polls, but if you look at the polls, he runs much weaker than most of the other leading Republican candidates against Hillary Clinton. And interestingly, in the ABC poll, they tested him as a third-party candidate, and he guarantees a Democratic election because he draws way disproportionately from the Republican Party if he runs as a third-party candidate at this point in July of 2015.